Hey, welcome back to Classic Performance, and if you're new to the channel, welcome to Classic Performance. And as always, if you like our content, we'd love to have you as a subscriber, and also hit that like button if you like the video, and the notification, the bell notification, so you'll be aware of when we have upcoming videos, and particularly continuation videos for a project like the 911 Cabriolet. And that's where we are today, part 3 of the 911 Cabriolet, and I'll get you up to speed as to where we are in the project right now. We rescued the car, we got it rolling, we got the wheels cleaned up. Part 2, we had a paint restoration, which came out very well. And then now part 3, we're kind of digging into the interior of it, and the goal for today is to get the car running. So let me show you where we are and get you up to speed. And if you're new to the channel and this is the first time you've come across the video, I'll kind of give you a little history and kind of where we are as we walk around the 911. So where we are today, we've got the paint buffed out, everything's looking better. The seats had these seat covers on them. We've taken the seat covers off. The seats are not in the best shape, but we've got new leather coming for these seats from L-Seat. If you look around online, you'll see who L-Seat is. We got rid of the skull head shift knob. Got a new shift knob on there, the correct shift knob. And then also the carpeting is back in. We've got new floor mats from JP Group, and of course the door panels, as you can see, are all warped, and the one over on this side is missing. So the big news here on the doors is we've got new door panels, and we'll take a look at those right here. Brand new door panels. They just came in yesterday, and the nice thing, instead of them being kind of on the cardboard fiber board, these door panels are on kind of a plastic, so these will not warp. And if you look, nothing is cut out on these panels. So if you decide in the speaker hole right here you don't want the speakers, you can leave that uncut, and I think I'll do that and let you know, someone else down the road, if we sell the car, if they want to put indoor speakers, they can. But anyway, you got all the cutouts here for the switches for the power windows, the lock, the handle, and everything else. So these cards are absolutely fantastic. They've got the correct stitching in them, so we've got that ready to go. Over here we've got our new pop-off valve. I'll show you about the pop-off valve, and I'll explain to you what the pop-off valve does. We've got our new fuel filter here, and also an oil filter and a Bosch fuel pump. So the fuel pump, I think, is an integral part of getting fuel to the injectors, which we seem to be missing. The car spins over. We've got some spark now, but no fire. And if you're wondering how this is pronounced, it's Malay or Mala, and the Germans prefer Mala, and here in the United States a lot of people say Malay. So Malay, Mala, tomato, tomato, but I say Mala. I'll go with the German pronunciation. But anyway, what we're making sure we have here is good German OEM original parts, nothing from, you know, the auto parts store down the street and that sort of thing. So let's get to work, and I think the first order of business here is get the car in the air, get under the front of it, and get the fuel pump on, and then go back. We'll take a look at the back and look at the pop-off valve and the fuel filter. So let's get to work. Okay, we've got our fuel filter loosened up here, and some fuel starting to drip out of there. We're going to try to take this hose off here and put another hose to reach down into this pan, and the fuel that's coming out of here smells really bad and really varnishy. So it's a good thing that we're going to drain this tank anyway, replace this fuel pump with the new Bosch, and go from there. Alright, so I got our line off. I was not successful in getting this little piece of hose on there, but it is falling exactly into this pan as planned. So we're going to go ahead and just let this drain out, and then we'll try to get this this banjo fitting off the other end of this pump here. All right, while that fuel drains up front nicely and it's kind of slow, we'll come back here to the back, to the business end of things, and our CIS injected flat 6. And what we've got to do is access our fuel pump and our fuel accumulator. So that is back up in here. You can see the fuel pump back up in here, and to the To the right of it is the fuel accumulator. We're going to have to get to that and clean it out, so we probably can take this heater duct hose off here and a couple other things so we can have access back there to get to the fittings to get that fuel filter off in the accumulator. So just to make life easier for myself, I've removed this whole blower motor assembly. So we're going to take this out of here, and we can check this blower motor assembly, make sure it's working, clean it up before we put it back in there. Looks like it needs a couple parts tightened up on it. So once we get that out of the way, then you can look in the back here and you can see to the left the fuel filter right here and the fuel accumulator. We're going to attempt to get these off, clean out the accumulator, maybe test that, and then also look at the fuel filter and inspect that, and then also replace it with our new one. So it's about time for us to switch pans here, and even with I've got this cap cracked. Even with the cap cracked, the fuel does not come out very fast. So the good thing is on these cars is that you can see how fast it drains out. You've got time to switch pans. So we're gonna spill a little bit, but we're gonna move this pan out, inspect what we've got, throw this pan under there. We'll check this out here in just 1 second. So here's the fuel that's come out of here. It smells very varnishy. If you look at it, you can see it's kind of got a reddish blackish tint. So this is no good, and I'm glad we're draining this. We're not going to try to start the car and push this fuel through it. All right, so that gave us just enough time to get this pan emptied into our recycling catch bin, and I'm going to go ahead and switch out this little pan back to the big pan, and keep doing the process. All right, we're back in the back here, and I've even tightened up these straps a little bit, because we're going to have to get on these fittings here and to break them loose. And I want to make sure these are secure as possible if we have to put a little bit of leverage on them. So our second tank is filling up front. We'll come back here and do a little work on this and see if we can get this fuel filter out, and possibly even the fuel accumulator to clean that out. So amazingly enough, these nuts popped right out. I took the bracket off, and here's our, if I can get it out of here. All right, we've got our Bosch filter off, and I attempted to blow through it. It's really completely plugged almost. I could barely blow through it, and I've drained it. But the bad news here, you compare this to our Malay KL22, and we've got the wrong filter here. So I'm gonna have to get another one coming. So we're just gonna delay on that for a second, and I'll go ahead and we'll go to the front and start working on the fuel pump. We're just about drained out of the gas up front. Well, our tank's still draining, but I easily got the lines off the fuel accumulator, so we're gonna go ahead and get this guy out of here. And it's hooked on the line. There we go. So we got this is our fuel accumulator, and it's full of bad gas too. So we're gonna go ahead and get us a new fuel accumulator and put that on there. And this line here goes over into the fuel pump. All right, we got our old fuel pump out of the Porsche, and I did test it, and it is seized. It just hums. It doesn't spin. It doesn't do anything. And this is the new Bosch pump. So you can see there's a little bit of difference how this is crimped around the top. And testing the Bosch pump, of course, you want to do that before you put it in. It does spin up nicely and run. So the new Bosch pump is there. The old auto parts store kind of whatever pump is here. So we'll get a new line for that, some new copper crush washers, and put this baby in. So what I've done over a couple of days, I put several gallons of gas in there, and it just doesn't come out. It comes out in a light stream like this. So what I'm thinking is maybe the tank screen is a little bit plugged. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out. I was trying to avoid that, but we're going to go ahead and take this out and see what the tank screen looks like. Now, one trick here is to get that out. It's a 22 millimeter. So I've taken a 22 millimeter bolt, put a jam nut on it, and I'm going to attempt to turn it out with that. So as you can see, this jam nut goes exactly right in there. So I've got to use two hands, so I'm going to have to hold this and use a wrench, so I'm not going to be able to film it. But you can see that bad boy, 22 millimeters, fits right in there. It's a metric, and get it at the hardware store. So there she goes. She's spinning. Woo! All right, well, there she goes. She's spinning right out. So we're going to go ahead and I dropped that right in that pan of gas. We're going to go ahead and spin this out and see what I'm gonna move my pan up here a little bit, because there might be some extra fuel come out of here when I take the screen out. So here she comes, and that's a brass plug. So, woo, and it's out. Let's take a look at what we got here, and I can feel the screen up in there. I'm gonna have to do a little work to get that out. So a lot of excess fuel is coming out of here, and you can tell it was definitely blocked by that intake screen. So you can see how much is coming out now. So there is definitely a proof that that screen was plugged up. All right, as you can see, we got our plug back in there, and I'm going to trim this fuel line off, put the fuel filter in there. And one thing I did, you get this fuel filter, get this fuel pump up in there, you're not going to know which is plus and minus. So I took just a little bit of nail polish and I painted the positive side red. And another thing to remember, you've got two wires up in here. You've got a brown one and a black one, and you would think the black one is going to be the ground, but it's not. The black is the hot, the brown is the ground, so you'll get confused, and oftentimes people put these fuel pumps in here and they get these two wires mixed up thinking the black is the ground. It's not the case. So make sure you have your polarity correct, and you'll be good to go. So let's put this fuel pump in there, then we're going to move to the back. Give you a little better look at it here. Like I said, you got your two wires here. One is brown, this one right here my thumb is, and the other one is black. So that's it. And you've got a banjo fitting right here, this banjo fitting. And you want to put new crush washers, copper crush washers on either side. New ones, don't reuse the old ones, and don't double stack them, one washer on each side. All right, the new fuel pump is in place, and you got to do it in order. You got to put your negative on first, then you can do your banjo fitting, because if you put your two electrical connections on first, you can't get to this nut to hold it with one wrench while you turn the securing nut out here with the other. So you got to go to the ground, to the banjo fitting, and then the positive, and then you're done. All right, fuel pump is up front. We're here at the back of the car. We've got our new, now correct Bosch fuel filter and a new Bosch fuel accumulator, and I've also bought a spare Bosch filter, so we can check this one, take it apart, see if there's anything being accumulated in it, because this is a recirculating system. It will self-filter whatever's in that tank. So we do have a spare filter if we need it. So we're going to put this assembly together, put it back in the hole where you saw it come out, and we're just going to be about ready to prime this system and give it a start, or an attempt to start. Okay, we've got our new fuel accumulator in here, our new fuel filter is in place, everything's plumbed up, and what I did was, you go under here to the air plate and you push this up, and that will activate the fuel pump. I have the key on. If you'll listen, you can hear the fuel pump running when I push up on the air plate. The fuel pump never turns on until the motor starts, because that lifts the air plate. Once it starts, kicks in the fuel pump. Your fuel accumulator over here is what holds fuel pressure while the engine is off to get it to start. So I've lifted this up, I've pressurized the system. I left one of these fittings, or two of these fittings, cracked to get the air out of the system. Once the air came out and fuel started seeping out of there, I tightened these up. So the fuel system's tight, it's under pressure, the fuel accumulator is holding pressure. Once the engine starts, the air plate on the injector fuel distributor will lift, the fuel pump starts, and the car runs. So we are just about ready to start the 911. Everything checks out, don't have any leaks, and the battery was dead. So we gotta let that charge for a few minutes. I don't know why the battery went dead after sitting here for a little bit. Must have a draw on it. So I put the charger on it. That was enough to start the fuel pump, get everything pressurized, leak checked, and ready to go. So we'll let that charge for a little bit. We'll come back and we're gonna turn the key and see what happens. All right, I've got everything leak checked, no more leaks. I've tightened up all the fittings, and we're gonna go ahead and just give this thing a turn and see what happens. I've primed it by lifting the air plate by the fuel distributor. You can see how long this car's has sat. You can see the rust on the crank pulley down here, and a little bit of rust on the belt where I turned it over by hand just to make sure it was free. So I think it's ready to spin over and go. And we have spun it over, as you saw in the previous video, but it did not start. So let's just put this car in neutral, which it is. Turn the key on and just give it a bump over. Woo, so it started for just a second. So it's getting fuel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to prime it again. right there with the fuel plate, and try it again. So she runs for a second and shuts off, so it may not be getting fuel once it starts. Let's do it again. Let's prime it just like that. And whoo, you can see the smoke, and that smoke is normal after a car like this sits for a very long time because the oil drains from the oil tank into the sump. Try it one more time. My battery is dead, so that's the end of it. I'm gonna have to get a helper, or maybe someone to help me, and I'll turn the key and I can run the throttle in the back. But she's gonna run. So obviously we're getting a prime and the motor starts, but it is not getting fuel. So I'm gonna hold the air plate up to trigger the fuel pump, and I can also control the amount of fuel going in based on how far I lift it. And I've got my helper here, my neighbor, who I had to catch on the way home from work, to turn the key so I can be back here to operate the air plate and the fuel distributor. So all right, go ahead and spin it over. All right, so I'm holding up the air plate and I'm adjusting the fuel mixture, so she's running. The smoke coming out, and that's from the oil that over the years has seeped down in from the oil tank down to the sump, and that will clear up. So as you can see, the 911 is running under its own power, and I just have to hold the air plate up a little bit to keep it going. We'll have to look at the fuel mixture and some of the fuel pressures, but we're going to get this car going, and that shows great promise. So anyway, maybe a long video, but if you like classic cars, boats, trucks, and airplanes, and rescue Porsches, and stay tuned because we're going to drive this car the next time. So take care and have a great day.